Hey guys, how's it going? Michael Troy here. Today we're looking at X Factor Annual Number 4 from 1989 by John Byrne and Walt Simonson. Very cool. Can't wait to show it to you guys. So make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button and let's get right into it. Okay, so I've always loved Marvel annuals. Well, and DC annuals. I had a lot of great annuals too. But I just love annuals in general. It's usually a double-sized issue. Sometimes it's like the continuation or conclusion of something going on within the books. Marvel actually, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. But then sometimes they were just original stories that were still in continuity somewhere, but not really within the confines of the monthly book, um, an excuse to do a story outside of the regular continuity that isn't going to disrupt the flow of the story per se, I guess. Anyway, they were always special and fun and usually had killer art. And this was at the point, so this is from 1989, the beginning of the countdown to the end for Marvel and DC. The speculator implosion and all that. Comics really wouldn't be quite the same after this. Not to say that there weren't good comics, but just very different sort of vibe and feel. Anyway, so this is John Byrne coming back to Marvel. He's been back at Marvel, I guess, from DC, trying to reboot Superman and all that jazz. But I love this cover. It's so gorgeous. I love the pink background. This would definitely stand out to me on the newsstand. I love the John Byrne art. I love that, he's inking himself, so we get that on the cover. I love that John Byrne takes full effect of, it's almost cartoony in a way, but I feel like it's just taking advantage of the, you know, the medium of comic books. Like, you can show the split screen and show him holding Marvel Girl underwater. I think she was still known as Marvel Girl at this point. Or was it just Jean Grey when she was in X Factor? Well, perhaps we'll find out inside. I should open this puppy. You're screaming at me. Anyway, but John Byrne took a lot of criticism, I think, in the beginning of his career for being a little cartoony. And I think it's funny because by today's standards, I think like artists like Joe Madureira with his cartoony manga influenced style made it popular and like more widely accepted. But I feel like sometimes cartoony artists get a little slammed as comic book artists. And I've always liked the more cartoony. I mean, that's aspect of John Byrne's art is actually what appealed to me, I think, initially. So anyway, this is at a point like where Marvel is doing like annual events. So it's Atlantis Attacks, and this is the story. X Factor's involvement because it's all a shared universe. So Fantastic Four would have their annual with Atlantis Attacks, and in a way, it's kind of fun, but it kind of sucks too as a collector. Like, you would have to get books you wouldn't necessarily buy, and just to get the full story. I was kind of hit or miss with X Factor, like coming in and out. I think I was there for a lot of it, but like John Byrne art is a no-brainer for me. My favorite, of course. Anyway, so another thing in annuals around this era is they had like multiple stories, just in order to fill the like 64 pages, I guess. So the main story is by John Byrne and Walt Simonson. The second story is Ralph Macchio and John Byrne. That's cool. Inferno Aftermath by Mark Grunwald, Jim Fern and Joe Rubenstein, X Factor Extended Family Pinup. Gotta love the pinups. And then another one by Mark Bagley. Alright. Cool picture of the beast. So you can definitely tell this is Simonson's inks over Byrne. Simonson, if he's inking someone, he's definitely bringing his distinct style to it. And that's what you want when you're asking someone like Walt Simonson to ink you. So story and pictures, John Byrne. Embellishment, Walt Simonson. Which, by embellishment, that usually says, like, to me, that John Byrne is doing, like, not quite full pencils here, and Walt Simonson is working as an embellishment polisher, not necessarily just, slapping down the inks, but actually adding line weight, adding, textures and things like that. And, these really long sort of vertical lines are definitely signature Walt Simonson kind of shading. I love his art. I fell in love with his art on X-Men, like that villain issue that introduced Rogue to the team. And then, of course, X-Men Teen Titans crossover blew my mind, and I just loved his art ever since. I love his work on X Factor with Louise Simonson, his wife. And, I mean, my brother was a big fan of Thor. I still don't think I've read Walt Simonson's Thor, and I need to correct that. I mean, I've definitely seen it and, been aware of it. But his art is so great, and this is such a good combination. So, Walt Simonson and John Byrne are actually friends in real life, so it's cool that they work together, and they work so well together. I mean, you can definitely see some of the underlying Byrne, but it's very heavily like Walt Simonson. Did they say who lettered this? Jim Novick, okay. Very cool. Very, like, obviously I think Byrne knew he was working with Walt Simonson, so you're definitely, like, playing to all Walt's strengths, and, like, why wouldn't you, of course? Like, this is so cool. I love this art. I love this era of X Factor, too. I came onto the X-Men after Jean Grey had done well, bit the dust, so, like, it was no harm, no foul to me to bring her back to life. And little did I know what a recurring crime and travesty that would turn into. But hey, you live and learn, right? But so anyway, I was happy to see her back. I mean, she was like this hot redhead with a cool costume. I love the Dark Phoenix saga, reading it. Like, but that's pretty much how I knew her anyway, just like having to pick up the old Byrne issues after I fell in love with the X-Men. And so I loved the X Factor. I loved the fact that it had all the original X-Men, and they had these really cool, like, modern, for the time, costumes, that were not all the same, but definitely uniform and unifying. And I think that's kind of signature, like, when you think of the original X-Men, except for the Neil Adams redesigns, which I really, really love. Those Neil Adams, I think I have a trade paperback of the, I might not have it anymore, the X-Men Neil Adams run, one of them, and it just gorgeous freaking art. And John Byrne was a huge Neil Adams fan, so and kind of clown in the beginning of his career, as was Walt Simonson, perhaps. Like, a lot of guys coming in around that time were, but Bill Sienkiewicz definitely in for sure, which is hard to imagine, seeing how his style evolved so much. I have to say, like, this is so fun and so killer, and it's like John Byrne and Walt Simonson are also, like, big Kirby fans, and I feel like some of that power and action is coming through, because I feel like when you think of Atlantis, do you think of Kirby? No, I guess maybe more Bill Everett. I don't know. I like Bill Everett's Submariner art. It's just freaking gorgeous, but I mean, Kirby definitely did some killer things with Namor, for sure. And the pages of the FF and what and not. It's so funny how often, like, I feel like, I don't think I've had to give mouth resuscitation to one person in my entire life, and it happens in 80s comic books, like, all the time. Maybe that was when, like, it seemed like it was popular at the time. Nobody cares anymore, but, like, learning CPR and the Heimlich maneuver and all that stuff. It was very trendy for a while at some point in history. As I glaze over this story, and these cool frickin' Atlanteans with these designs are so awesome, and just, like, I don't know, it's just, like, of course, John Byrne is just so awesome, and then you throw Walt Simonson inks on top of it, and and then you have, like, the X Factor, and then you got the Blue Beast. I mean, I'm in love. What a great book. I must have been so excited when this came out, I'm sure. That cover alone killed me. Anyway, So here's another like backup story, and I love it because John Byrne is penciling and inking himself. And of course, you can always count on Byrne to draw an amazing Magneto and Doctor Doom. It's funny because they're both appearing in his X-Men fan fiction. What do you say, X-Men fan fiction? Yeah, John Byrne is like doing some fan fiction, just releasing it for free on his forum, BYRNERobotics.com, under the fan fiction. So definitely check that out. And if you want to see some really killer, like amazing art from a 70-year-old man that is unstoppable. And it's funny because Magneto and Doom, like I said, are appearing in the recent pages, and it's so cool to see them together. And then here we go. So it's like John Byrne is definitely doing what he loves. And it's funny because of the era. This is like when, and it shows how different artists draw things so differently, because this is the costume that I think John Romita Jr. put him in the X-Men. This is when, you know, he sort of like was leading the X-Men, and Professor X was off doing God knows what. But I don't know, I miss the helmet. I mean, this just, you know, makes him look like a less muscular Cable or something. I don't know. No, I mean, he's still cool and I love it, of course. But yes, give me the helmet. There you go. I mean, what is Magneto without his helmet? Like, that's what makes him so sinister and cool. To me, anyway. I've always loved Dr. Doom. I was definitely reading Fantastic Four by Byrne before I even knew about his like run on the X-Men. Because, you know, back in the day, you're picking up crap at 7-Eleven. I mean, I was so young, I may or may not be aware of who's even drawing it, even though I quickly learned with art like Byrne. Oh my god, I love Byrne's Mephisto so much. I mean, Byrne's anybody, and that's like really the overall appeal of Byrne's art is like he just draws really classic superheroes, and they always look amazing and like exactly how they're supposed to look. And I feel like there's no, and like it just goes to show too. I kind of like this in a way, like because I know Byrne would always prefer, you know, to draw the classic versions of the characters that he loves, and that's who we want to see him draw. But in situations where he has drawn them, you know, like I mean them in their X Factor costumes. How awesome is that? To see that by Byrne versus, you know, the original incarnations. I'm loving this. This is giving me like Metallo vibes from his Superman art, which I loved his Superman too. I mean, let's face it, I just love Byrne. Did I give credit to... I mean, it's funny because, you know, Byrne's had... this is like a great era in Byrne's inking. I feel like this is one of the high points for his inking. He's had like different, you know, try different things in different styles, use different tools throughout the year. And his hatching is just so cool and on point here. And I'm thinking he's probably still using a crow quill for that, maybe. Number 102 crow quill is like the hallmark of a inker from this era, anyway. Oh, how funny is this? Like, how the hell are the Blues Brothers just showing up out of nowhere? What? I mean, come on. Is this parody? Like, I'm sorry to, like, stall on this for a minute, but, okay, Mark Grunwald, I guess the late, great Mark Grunwald was kind of known as for his sense of humor, so I can definitely see that happening here. Joe Rubenstein inks, Jim Fern pencils, Joe Rosen letters, Gregory Wright. Okay, so this is an Inferno Aftermath, another huge Marvel crossover that was super awesome, that I totally loved. Actually, this is pretty fun. I mean, kind of weird that they just have the Blues Brothers in here, but I mean, great at the same time. I mean, this kind of stuff just... I mean, that's the wacky kind of stuff I live for. No wonder why my own comic books are kind of whack like that. Like, this is the stuff that always appealed to me. Finally, X Factor. After, like, 10 pages of frickin', what do you call it? Blues Brothers, now finally the X Factor, whose annual it is. I love Archangel. I have to say, like, that was one of the coolest things ever, how he was, like, transformed by the Dark Horseman or Apocalypse or whatever. I mean, that was, like, you know, sometimes character redesigns, especially that radical, just don't work. Case in point, like the Azrael Batman, like, I thought that was heinous. But this Archangel, I want to give credit to Walt Simonson for the design, but I'm not sure. But it definitely has like Kirby influences, so I could see Walt doing that, and it's just so cool. And I wish there were a full body cast picture of it, but did we get that in Byrne's pages? I don't recall seeing Angel anywhere. It was all Jean and Beast. Byrne's obsessed with Jean Grey. She's like all over X-Men Elsewhere, like it's totally about her. She keeps dying and coming back to life and getting possessed and blah blah blah. It's the same shit that happened after he left. So what do we care? John Bogdanov. I think it's funny because I've had ups and downs with his art, like, but this is fun. This is totally nostalgic, and I love this. This is like the Brett Blevins era of the New Mutants, and I loved all these costumes for them. I love the New Mutants so much. That's coming, guys, so don't worry. That was such a fun annual. I love it. This is like, like when annuals were so cool, I think, like the very end. Oh, and then we get this Mark Bagley illustrated short story. I wonder at what point he did this, based in part on stories by Roy Thomas and Marie Severin. It's funny, this is very cool art for Mark Bagley, especially kind of early in his career. Keith Williams, who normally inks John Byrne, backgrounds, like backgrounds and stuff like that, is doing full inks here, so that's cool to see. He's a good artist, and I feel like he's really bringing a lot to this story. And it's fun. Who knew Mark Bagley's well suited for the character of classic Namor Submariner? Although he's kind of, even though he's not like my favorite artist, I feel like Mark Bagley is very classic in a way and sort of makes everybody look very heroic. So, you know, I can see his place in the industry, but never as polished as I thought he could be for as long as he's been around. I know that's a horrible criticism. Whatever. I still like his art. Okay. Anyway, so that is so super cool. Love this. If you guys are Byrne fans or Walt Simonson fans or X-Men fans, you definitely need to check this out. I'm sure it's somewhat affordable. Anyway, Atlantis Attacks, X Factor Annual 4, John Byrne, Walt Simonson. Totally rad. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit like, share my content, and I'll bring you some more later.